And we're live. Tiago, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Pouya. It's a real honor to be here. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Hope we're gonna have a good time here.
Absolutely. And the pleasure is all mine. I'm excited to talk about all kinds of business related topics, really geared towards small business owners, like we were just saying offline. I think the bit of research that I've done on you, you can definitely bring a unique approach from your amalgamation of experiences in the corporate world and in the entrepreneurship space. And I think it'll be really helpful for everybody. So before we dive into all of that, I'll let you give yourself an introduction, let everybody know who you are, a bit about your background and experience. And we'll go from there.
Yeah, so my name is Tiago. I'm from Lisbon, Portugal. And my main focus is to help, as you say, smaller entrepreneurs, people that are at the beginning their stages of their knowledge-based businesses, like coaches, mentors, consultants, etc. And yeah, so I've been working here in the past 3 years in my local market. And I'm at the beginning stages of internationalizing my brand, so it's awesome to be here. Thanks so much for you. And as my background, so I've it all started a long time ago when I was in Manchester, in the United Kingdom. I had my master's degree in a random topic that I chose at the time, was strategic consumer marketing. And at the time, my tutor was called Adrian Thomas. He was a 73-year-old man. And he said, you guys should look at digital marketing as the future. This was back in 2008. And I was like, oh my God, okay, maybe I should change my thesis topic. So that's what happened. I chose like Google. I was already orienting myself to Google, search engine marketing, impact in the UK. I loved it, of course. I fell in love with the idea, came back to Portugal, worked in an agency as an intern. But then I always had this, the goal of going to the holy grail of Google. So I, slowly started tapping into my network, seeing who knows who that works there. Found someone. I made an awesome CV because I love design. So I make like a CV that's as if it's a search for my name on Google, and then the search results are my experience and my background. So it was kind of fun.
That's awesome. And, very creative.
Somehow attracted the attention of a recruiter there, which was great. Managed to go there 2011. Had a blast. Yeah, it was amazing. 8 years working for some of the biggest companies in Europe, Middle East. So working with a lot of awesome CMOs and CEOs, and like I had a lot of fun, of course, but a lot of work, a lot of pressure in the sales environment of Google. So I was starting to get a bit tired of the corporate world. Starting to the boss nagging you every week. I was feeling a bit blocked creatively because I was only having I could only work with Google Ads. I was limited by that, and in the meantime, Facebook ads were growing like crazy, and I was fearing that I'm missing out on all these adventures. So I decided to quit and come back to Portugal in 2019. Thank God my wife accepted it. Otherwise we'll be in trouble. To start helping here local entrepreneurs, business owners with their advertisement, with their online presence. But I started hitting against the brick wall because I was bringing very complex strategies from Google, right? The ads, the funnels, etc. Trying to implement that with me was this started my own business from scratch. It's very different to help, very established companies with their, being consultant with their strategy versus creating from scratch the business, right? So I was I struggled very, very much in the beginning. I was also confusing the life, my clients was also confusing them. So it was not working. So for 3 years, I've been, trying to, okay, let's simplify this as much as possible. Let's simplify. How can I make it impactful both for me and for my clients? And inspired by the book from this gentleman, Jay Abraham, Getting Everything You Can Out of All You Got. I started thinking of this last word, all you've got. What do I have? So yeah, that's how I figured out okay, let's focus on what I have in my own world. Because I believe that most of us have everything we need to start a very, very fun business around, your knowledge.
Yeah, I love that perspective. Sorry to interject there, but I think that's a really interesting idea. And I want to ask you about all these different chapters that you've been through. I have a couple of questions on each one, just out of my own personal curiosity. And I think that curiosity always brings value for the audience at the end of the day. So I like to always pursue my own curious thoughts. And I think that creates, the best conversations here.
Absolutely.
So first of all, I just want to say, to begin with, I was just in Lisbon, like I told you off air as well. Past summer, I was traveling through Spain, Morocco, and Portugal. Spent a lot of time in Lisbon. Beautiful city. Had a great time there, and definitely can't wait to be back. So it was all right off the bat. It was great to connect with you and realize that you're in Lisbon. And if only we had met a few months earlier, we could have met up in person and gotten a cup of coffee. But yeah, no worries. I'll be back. I'll be back for sure. So I want to ask you about first this inclination to get up and go somewhere else to pursue opportunity, to leave your city, leave your country, go to the UK, go to Ireland, go to these different places to pursue bigger opportunities. What do you think even stirred that up in you, or what do you think it takes if somebody's right now sitting there thinking, I do want to pursue bigger opportunities, I do want to move around the world because it's becoming more of a global economy nowadays. I do want to pursue my passions and my interests, but I have that fear around taking that leap of faith or around pursuing a bigger game. What would you advise them from your own experience?
First of all, I think what sparked that in me was that because of my parents, basically because of my parents, because they moved me from school to school when I was a kid. I think I was in 6 different schools. My brother and sister, they were in the Deutsche Schule Lissabon, in the German school for all their childhood. And somehow I don't know why. I always asked them, you just didn't like the schools where you were. So I just kept changing
Mm-hmm.
and I kept creating new friends, new networks. So that might have helped me with my, feeling less uncomfortable into moving to different places, etc. So that could be one of the points. And that is, well, I've been traveling also all my life. My parents visited lots of the U.S. states, for example. They've been almost every summer. They took us there, and yeah. So I think that made me naturally inclined to, okay, I want to explore new things, new people, and all that. I think that helped a lot. But the thing you're saying about people that want to feel like it's time to take the leap, right? Many of them are kind of blocked because of a fear of change, right? A fear, what if it goes wrong? What if I'm so comfortable here? And I think that's mostly the resistance in our mind working, that I also faced it daily. Basically, we all have this kind of place in our mind that says, "No, you better stay comfortable. It's safer here." That has a good nature by itself. It wants to keep us safe. Basically, it's a good by nature. But
Mm-hmm.
in our new reality, in our modern society, it doesn't match with what we want to achieve. We need to, in order to create new leaps of growth, we need to be uncomfortable, right? We need to move a bit the normalcy, right? Because the natural state of things is like nothing's moving, everything is stable. So in order for us to have a leap of growth, we need to do something unusual and natural that is out of our comfort zone. And that I add that I think I had it ingrained in my mind by nature, but I understand that many people, they need to go through that stage, right? Yeah, the way to do it is, I mean, the way I did it when I went to this leap of faith of going to Google, etc., is but just not thinking too much. I was just visualizing myself. Okay, I want to be there. I'm there already. I'm just gonna do what's necessary. Not thinking about like what I did, what people thought, or whatever. I was just fully fixated in this idea. So I guess that's a good point. Is like to like, what is your goal? What do you want to be? And just be obsessed about that idea, which distracts you from that resistance in your mind, right? And you just completely focus on that. I'm just going to do it, and no matter what, and forget about the rest. I think that's my take at it. Do you agree with those
Sure. Yeah, I
points?
definitely agree. I wanted you to fully wrap up that thought before I jump in because I definitely agree with you. I think especially the last piece about being fully obsessed with what you want to do and also who you want to become. Right. I've
Yeah,
said this a million times and people have heard me say this, but my first mentor used to say this, and I learned this from him very early on, that you don't set goals for the goals themselves, but you set goals for who you need to become in order to achieve that goal. So it's not about what you're getting or getting that job at Google or whatever else it might be. It's about who you need to become, the level you need to rise to personally to be able to be that person to walk into the Google offices and headquarters and feel confident that I'm here to really bring value to the company. So I think it's in the becoming that
to
everything
become.
happens. So I love that answer, and that leads me to my next follow up question for you. So once you do get into Google, obviously major company, big brand, there's a lot at stake. I'm sure that, like you said earlier, there's a lot of expectations of you. What was that experience like? I'm just curious. I've worked with some big companies myself, whether I was in sales for pretty much my whole life, and then later on when I was doing outsourced sales and I was building teams, systems, and processes for various companies. I have some of that experience, but I think it's different going in as an employee and wanting to really bring value to this company and commit yourself to the company. I guess two-part question. One is, what was the experience like from the beginning? The second part of the question is, what were some takeaways? What did you learn? What did you like? What did you not like?
Yeah. So as for the beginning stages, it was like felt like in a university, right? It's like you're there for like a whole month, just learning, going to together with your nooglers, which is the group of people that arrived almost at the same time as you. So it's like real university vibe. I really loved it. At that stage of my life, it was perfect. But then, yeah, of course, it's like you play hard there, but you also work hard. Especially once I transitioned into a sales role, I was first as a like a creative person, creating ads for companies, translating also for my local language. I was more using my at the strengths I had at the time, so I was having a blast. But once I transitioned to sales, that's when things, started to okay, this is a bit against my nature, because I'm also kind of I still struggle with, of course, I have some anxiety issues. So like whenever I'm faced with unusual situations, and I'm always fighting against it, right? I always expose myself to these situations, but I still have those, in the back of my mind, thoughts that probably like block me from going even further. But yeah, it started there. But I also learned a lot with the sales process, right? Like how to sell, how to be a consultant, how to make the right questions, how to answer objections, how to, it's like a university that you get there, like an MBA almost. Yeah, I loved it all in that sense. But of course, the corporate world and the limitations of it and the way it's formatted. I'm sure that people that like that environment and they love and they thrive in it, and they became those corporate machines like that feed themselves out of those, visibility games, and I'm showing off. This is my abilities. I'm networking with all the people. I know that's a very cool game for some people, but I was not feeling identified with it at all. I need more freedom, more creativity, more space to do what I wanted to do, and not just be limited by someone else's dreams, right?
Yeah,
So that's
I've had
what
a lot of
sparked
the
me.
same experiences in terms of that corporate game that you talk about. And I felt the exact same way. I was very young when I was in the corporate space, and there was a point where, the income that I was earning at 23, 24 years old was just inconceivable for anybody my age. And at the same time, I felt completely unfulfilled. And a lot of it was the same thing because I played the game out in my own mind, right? In 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, where is this path leading to? Who am I going to be at the end of that time frame? How much growth potential really is there, right? Besides the income potential, and maybe I can invest that money and build my wealth, but who am I becoming? What have I really left untapped? What have I left on the table in terms of my own potential and what I could have done in that time? Am I going to look back and regret this decision to stay in the corporate world and stay in the B2B space and all of that? So I had all the same thoughts, and I can tell we're very much similar in that way. Now, that being said, I'd like to get your thoughts on this, because I used to say back in those days that everybody should eventually want to be an entrepreneur. But once I got into business for myself, I actually changed my stance on that. I actually genuinely believe that it is just simply too hard for a lot of people who don't have the commitment or the passion or purpose around what they want to do, don't have the skill set, don't have the risk of capital, just the ability to take risk in general.
Yes,
And
exactly.
nowadays, I feel like it's not for everybody. It actually may not be for most people. But if it is for you, like yourself, like me, it'll speak to you and it'll pull you towards
Definitely.
entrepreneurship, because you'll just realize you don't resonate with that corporate life anymore. So, what are your thoughts on it? Do you think entrepreneurship is for everybody? Do you think it's for people who feel they resonate with that in general?
I have a specific take on that, because when I was sharing my thoughts of like, I'm going to leave this company with some people around me at the company, I was having private chats with many of them, and majority was saying like, dude, everyone here is jealous of you, even though they don't say that in their everyone like is suffering and in this game and they cannot get out of here. And just to let you know that everyone is jealous of you. Okay, so I have this feeling that many people that are playing the game, they're just many corporate players are just extremely risk averse, and that's something that blocks them from probably achieving something better more rewarding in their lives. They're just stuck in that game. They want to keep playing it until who knows what, who knows why. And they just like the structure, right? The structure of having like a management, structure, and but I'm sure everyone would have something to give to the world. We all came here to add value. That's with using our own capabilities. I'm sure that most people, that extremely intelligent people, are there. Probably the most intelligent people that are at their own age, extremely well educated, with super amazing even sales abilities, which is probably the thing you need the most when you create a company, right? In an entrepreneurship world, sales capabilities. I'm sure that most people there would be but it will be okay. But they just have this extreme aversion to risk, which blocks them. And probably they weren't sparked yet by something that me and you were. Like, for example, I read the Rich Dad Poor Dad book that kind of, oh, what the hell is this? It started sparking me different things, and yeah, of course, it depends on the personal goals, etc. But I think it all goes down to the risk aversion, and once if you don't surpass that mind block that we have, then you don't go to this path. But I think all of us would have something to give to the world. Of course, majority probably would not succeed, but we would try. And that's my take on it. I'm not sure if I'm right, but that's what I felt when I was talking to people there.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure anybody knows, to be completely frank with you. I think this is a topic that we could talk about back and forth for hours and hours, and there isn't really a definite answer to this, because to answer this question clearly would say that you understand human psychology to its full extent, which we don't. That you understand every person's individual, life experience, nature, nurture, all of that to its full extent, which we definitely don't. I don't think we even really understand how much of success and what generates success is nature versus nurture. So I think there's a lot of questions here on this play in general. But that's just what I've come to. And I agree with you on most of the aspects of this, that everybody has some type of innate purpose they can really tap into and contribute value to whatever community they have, whatever community that they want to be a part of, whether it's arts, whether it's sales, whether it's the marketing world, whether it's writing books, whether it's drawing comics, whatever it might be, right? Whatever that purpose is, I'm sure if you hone in the ability to tap into it, you can bring some value to the world. But I think there are so many other layers that go into the business aspect of it, the entrepreneurship aspect of it. That's what makes it challenging. This is why, like you mentioned yourself, most businesses fail, most entrepreneurs fail. And for most people, it would probably make more sense to go either the corporate route or go, a route where they can find a level of fulfillment in their lives, but also, not completely put themselves in a negative situation. So it's a interesting topic. I go back.
I think it's because of the like, once an obstacle shows up and what to do when everything goes wrong. You think that's where people will like get distracted and quit, and then nothing works? You think that's the main threshold?
Well, that's definitely a piece of it, right? There's a famous quote, and this is why I have this picture behind me. I've referred to it a million times before as well, but I'll do it again at the risk of sounding repetitive. The picture says pressure, the black says pressure, and the red says pressure is a privilege. That message speaks to me personally. The way I was born and raised in the Middle East, very hard environment. Didn't meet my father till I was 10 years old for the first time. Like, obviously, all of that created a different fire inside of me that, coming over here to the western side of the world and learning English as my third language. You're obviously multilingual as well, so you understand what I'm saying. At 10 years old, from zero, that gives you a different type of drive. That gives you a different type of perspective on life. I think all of these play a factor. So, it's not necessarily just one thing. There's also a famous quote that something along the lines of, a great man does not come from a great man. Basically meaning that you need some type of struggle or challenge in life to really drive you to that level of obsessiveness you alluded to earlier, right? Another quote, I don't want to be just rhyming off quotes here, but it just makes sense, is Michelangelo famously said, if they knew how many hours I've put into this task or this sculpture or art or whatever he's doing, they wouldn't call it genius. Right. So it comes down to that level of obsessive focus and work and commitment. But commitment comes at the cost of trade-offs, at the cost of sacrificing everything else. And the reality is, from what I've seen, most people just aren't willing to make those sacrifices, aren't willing to make those trade-offs. And that means long-term, they're not going to have those results.
Exactly. That's completely true. That's what I felt also with the people around me. They were not willing to take those risks. They were not willing to fight for something that they really ignites their inside. Like you said, there has to be a fire inside, otherwise it's not going to be worth it, and they will just quit, right? They try it and then quit and come back to the corporate world.
Exactly, because it's too comfortable, right? I mean, the whole grass is greener thing is interesting
nowadays, right? The tech world already fired like 300,000 people this year or something like crazy like that. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. In theory, it's safer.
Exactly. It's definitely not safer. That's definitely not what I was saying. It's more comfortable. Right? Yeah, because, they're so used to the way of life. They're so used to showing up. If you feel like it, if you don't feel like it, get a little bit of work done. Then go to Starbucks, get a drink, come back. As an entrepreneur, you can't afford that. You can't do that. You need to get things done. You need to really have a high level of self-accountability. Again, most people aren't willing to impose that pressure on their own lives. That's why you need the boss to impose that on you. But
Yes,
when you
yes.
go into entrepreneurship for yourself and realize you got to hold yourself accountable above all else, it gets very difficult and very challenging. So it's interesting. But obviously, going back to you, there's something that separated you from everybody else there that made you want to take that leap of faith and go out on your own. So clearly, there are factors that separate higher level performers, higher level individuals from everybody else.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure that's. I mean, in my case, I think I decided to take the decision when the fear of staying in this world became bigger than the risk of, I have to go back to Portugal, start something on my own. And once that happened, I think the leap is very easy. Once you look in the future, who you want to be, like you said, who do you really don't want to be at all? What game you don't want to be playing in the future? What will not make you proud if you keep going? Most people will stay in that those golden how do you say, golden handcuffs, right?
Golden handcuffs, yeah.
Yeah, just because it's comfortable, it's because it's easier. I mean, it's not easy. I mean, if you want to play the higher level game in the corporate world,
Hmm.
I mean, it's a lot of pressure, crazy pressure, but it's nothing compared with when everything depends on you, right? Everything is on
Yes.
you, on your shoulders.
Hmm.
But it reached a stage where I need to do my own thing. I became psychologically unemployable, basically. I wouldn't see myself doing it anymore after 8 years there. Most people would probably feel, okay, it's too comfortable, I just continue until until I retire. But to me, it was just not enough. The fire started to ignite inside of me. I had bigger plans, I had bigger dreams, and thank God my wife also supported me on that. I mean, if it wouldn't be easy for me to fight against those two worlds, right? I think it was a super necessary and helpful thing for me.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in that as well, especially with your partner, your spouse really supporting you and being on the same page. I think that's such a critical point of getting to where you want to in life is being aligned on the same page and having that level of support at home so that when you go out into the world, go out into the business world, into the corporate world, you have that strong backing and that confidence and you're decisive. You can, make decisions better. I think that's really important. So clearly you have that in place as well. Now, I want to move on from this topic, but just a final question here, since we're lingering a little bit. Leaving your position at Google and then going into business for yourself, coming back to Portugal, making that change again. What were a few things that maybe in hindsight you can look back and say, I learned from that experience that I'm going to take and apply into my business. I'm going to take and apply into my future path. Or maybe what were a couple of things that you learned not to do that you said, moving forward, I don't want to build this kind of business. I saw this and I don't like this type of team building or whatever it might be. What were some takeaways?
What I brought from it that I find super valuable is to be like make plans, like make a year plan, make your own OKRs. Every quarter have something. You need to have something to strive to, and like to measure. Otherwise, you're just working randomly, and then you know you cannot measure what you don't take notes and what you don't establish as goals, etc. So that's something that I brought that I still use nowadays and has been very helpful to keep me accountable, to make me uncomfortably excited. That was an expression that Larry Page, the CEO at the time, said. You need to establish goals that make you uncomfortably excited, which is cool because you need to stretch yourself. Even though you might not reach that goal, but at least you'll be closer to what your main objective is. And that goal has to be keep you a bit uncomfortable, but also excited. It has to be something that it's within your reach. Otherwise, you also become, it's impossible. I'll just stop doing it. So yeah, those are the things that I brought from there, and of course all the experience with sales and the market insights that I've been doing as a consultant. It's super important for you to know your audience and your niche. Decide who's your niche market, understand it better than almost they understand themselves. It's key for to unlock the success in business and in the business, I would say, because if you create something in your own mind and then like for what I did, one of the biggest mistakes I did at the beginning was to spend weeks, maybe months, creating a mega course about everything I knew, and then try to
Right.
sell it, and nobody buys it
Hmm.
because we tend to create something that we feel that people will need, right? That's the natural tendency, unfortunately, that most of us have. But you will learn eventually that now you shouldn't do that. You should get to know very well your audience. Who are they? What do they actually want to buy? Once you get that, and you find something that people actually want to buy, then the whole business starts to unfold, and things become much easier.
Sure. So
Yeah.
let's talk about this. Let's talk about marketing, sales, and kind of what you came to as you went into business for yourself. You have this catchphrase and this specific approach, which is the anti-marketing approach, the anti-marketing approach to business. And you were explaining this to me offline about how it just simplifies business for smaller business owners, beginner entrepreneurs, people who are taking that leap of faith and getting started. So explain that anti-marketing approach, what it is, if you can deconstruct it for us, and how it could be helpful to everybody who's listening, who's in business.
Yeah, it came about because of my experience, right? I was overly complicated my things with what I said with Google ads, the funnels, etc. And also I was falling into all the traps of the gurus telling you should do one funnel away and I was keep trying those new things, those flashy, shiny objects, failing, and then it doesn't work. Try something else. For 3 years I was in that game, and most people that I've been talking to, they are at this beginning stage of 5 to 10K. They also struggle in that sense because they keep trying new things that promise like it's an easy button that you just press and it's going to work. And we usually think that the most complex things that will be the fastest, and we fall into those traps. And then we forget about the basics. They're going back to the old time business and marketing strategies that have been timeless for hundreds of years, and we disregard them. And what is the anti-marketing thing is my belief that we have everything we need already in our world to create a very, very interesting business. And what do we have in our current world is the relationships, our current relationships that we have established for years. And we tend to forget about it. When you come into business, somehow we have this idea that we need to start new relationships. We need cold audiences. We need ads, we need funnels. And we forget about everything that we've gathered so far. So who are they? We have most of us have like either a customer list or a list of people you've talked to or sales calls or leads. So we have that bucket of potential clients in our current relationships. We also have our contacts, like our list of friends, family, colleagues, LinkedIn connections, acquaintances, etc. And we also have our audience, right? We've been building our audiences either in LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, etc. So we have those 3 buckets that we can play with. And we have the first, but these people will not necessarily be the ones that give us the money that we need right now, but they might help us get that money, right? There's a couple of things we can do here, but the first thing to ask is we've been discussing in the beginning is, do I have something that my target audience wants, and do I have a target audience? Who is my niche? What is my niche? What do these people need? What do they actually want? What are their goals, objectives, etc.? And does my current offer, whatever I have to offer, answer to the specific desperate problem that they're trying to solve right now, right? If not, if we don't have that's where we should start. So establishing what is our niche, what is the problem that we're trying to solve, and then we try to create an offer that solves that. And how do we find out that out is by interviewing the people that are in our network, like our past clients, our leads list. We interview them, discover what are their pain points, the frustrations, how does it feel like in their world. So instead of staying in our mind all the time, I like to talk to people that surrounds us because then we can extract a lot of good information, the emotional language that they use, and then we simply can steal that and use it in our offer, right? And then, like this, you reflect exactly what the market wants instead of being in your mind and trying to invent something new, right?
This approach of almost gathering intelligence. Just to jump in here, I like that you're almost asking everybody around you questions, looking to see really where you have a unique advantage and inherent advantage. I always tell people as well, where you have prior experience helps, right? If you're asking, what is my target audience, or who do I want to speak to, or what space or niche can I really operate in? It helps if you have, years and years of prior experience in that thing. Obviously, you've established some credibility, authority. You have a network, like you mentioned, that you can tap into there. But this is something I did myself as well when I was younger. It's almost like soul searching, but in the direction of business, right? Like asking, parents, family, friends, the closest people to you, what are some things about me that you can think of right off the bat?
Yes,
and this is an exercise that I actually used to do to figure out what my quote unquote brand is, my personal brand, because everybody has a brand, right? I think you would agree, whether they like it or not, whether they know it or not. Your brand is what people think about you. If you're always late, that's your brand. You're a late person. If you're always healthy and prioritizing working out, that's your brand. We all have a brand that we carry with us. So I wanted to figure that out when I was younger because I wanted to really learn more about myself through the eyes of those who know me best. So I would ask them questions like that and ask them to sum me up in one word or in one sentence. And that definitely helped me a lot. So this is kind of what I'm gathering from the advice that you're giving. And I can tell you from personal experience, it definitely was helpful for me.
Not only for that, for your own brand, but also what do they actually want, right? That's what do they want to solve right now. We need to find the desperate problem that they are willing to give money to solve, right? You cannot be something generic like I'm a relationship coach. Okay, but it doesn't resonate with me somehow. But you have to find out, like, be as specific as possible. As, for example, like I help you avoid divorce. For guys that are ahead and on the edge of it, I help you on that, in a specific issue that they really want to solve right now. Because if we don't find a problem they want to solve right now, we're going to be struggling constantly to sell, because it's not a now problem. People don't feel the need to buy it now, and they think, one day I'll invest in that, or that's the main thing for those interviews, and to find out what is the problem, and then go back to the drawing board, create an offer that they actually want, and that's the starting point. Okay, and then the second question to ask is,
Sure.
okay, now that I have this offer, my current connections do they actually need my new offer? Okay, so if the answer is yes, you simply ask the people that you interviewed before, look, I just created this thing that answers the problem that you wanted to solve, and you just simply create a connection. Ask the people in your audience. You can in your current social media audience, you can create those kind of hand-raising posts that like the two-step post, like I created this, do you want it? Some people will answer, some people will send you a message, which creates you an excuse for you to talk to them, so by chat, by messenger, etc. And you can simply uncover, okay, qualify that person, see if they really have the problem that you can solve, and then just sell it, right? Selling can be as easy as the person telling you what they need, and you simply asking, okay, do you want help with that? And then selling can be as easy as that, right? We just tend to complicate, but that's a main starting point. So you ask them if they want, like the persons you interviewed, your past clients, etc., your audience. You ask them. And if the answer is no, that people around you don't need your offer, well, you can. But can I make something that they need right now, right? And what does most people need? Most people need money, right? So you can simply tap into the networks of people, and you create your own referral program around your new offer, and you just ask all your networks, your connections, etc. Look, I have this amazing offer that solves a specific problem that the people in my niche need. Do you know someone, right? And you simply can offer a commission to those people. And you'll see that the power of networking like this, if you do it consistently over the time, people are willing to help you. Even some people will say, I don't need a commission. I can send you over. I know this person that knows this person. And you never know where this takes you, right? So this is basically it. It's just talking to people around you, making them help you create an offer that they really want to buy, and then you just sell it to them. You ask your audience who wants it, and then you create a referral program, and you just constantly, systematically incentivize people to become your own sales team. Okay, so if you do this consistently, you end up with a huge network of people that are trying to help you out and highly incentivized, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I like that you're simplifying the entire process. I think it's definitely helpful for people. Question for you. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. In a lot of these different niches that, we both hear people want to get into all the time, they can be hyper competitive. There can be a lot of, there can be a lot of noise already in that space. What are some of your thoughts or pieces of advice around separating yourself from competition, around standing out in hyper competitive spaces? Anything that you want to comment on that?
Well, first of all, is the being very specific and about your niche. If you're the guy that takes care of a very specific concept of a specific problem that people are going through, like I help C-level women that are single moms, they're super busy and they improve their relationship with their teenage son, like something very specific like that, you almost immediately become the only viable solution for that woman, right? Oh my God, this is me. I need to work with Pouya or with Tiago, whoever. So that's one way to start things off, which most people kind of tend to forget. We have this tendency to be generalists, right? Because I feel I have to help everyone because I don't want to lose any opportunity. Everyone who has money is my client, right? But that is a problem, because then your message kind of dissipates. It kind of doesn't connect with anyone specifically, so you kind of struggle to sell, and then you depend on passive referrals that most people also depend on. But if you're very targeted, you'll get most of that people, right? So that's one way to do it. And another way to differentiate yourself is just to be yourself, as most genuine as possible. Avoid the fashion of the AI that everyone is like using, copy pasting, creating things from AI, and then everyone will start sounding like the same, because AI reflects the most popular opinions, reflects the most popular views of the world. So everyone will start being a bit similar voiced. And if you stand out being like completely yourself, this is something that it took me some time to figure out, because I was trying to be like someone I'm not. I'm an expert in this area, so this is what you should do. And once I figured out, I was doing I was in the middle of a 90-day challenge, creating 90 videos in 90 consecutive days on YouTube. And on day 30, I felt, man, what am I doing? I'm just going to start talking to my people. And I changed in Portuguese, I was speaking an informal way, like very informal. You don't have this in English, but você, instead of being more, I was using formal você instead of being informal, like talking more closely to the people that I want to help. So there's a video specifically there that I really actually start talking to my people and being myself and allowing myself to just flow, and that actually started making things much easier to me, and people started to be attracted, and much more opportunities started to show up. So basically, sharing your own view of the world, sharing stories, personal stories, client stories. So instead of being like those Instagrammers that are just sharing like the 5 things you shouldn't do, the 5 things you should, just being more of the self-telling stories, and sharing your own personal view of the world, and that's I think that's more than enough to attract the right people to your world.
Yeah, I think those are both really great answers. One, to be very specific and know your exact target audience, so that you essentially tap into the law of category. You take over that category and you become synonymous with that category by being so specific.
Yes.
I love that advice. I think it's so important. Just like you say this, I really specialize in sales, and sales is my entire background. So the one thing I say all the time that is in line with what you're saying here is the world is not your target market. The world is not your closable market, as we call it in sales. Right? Because you talk to a lot of salespeople, a lot of especially younger salespeople nowadays in the high ticket space, quote unquote. All these buzzwords really get under my skin, because that's not how I came up. I didn't learn sales by becoming, an appointment setter and then becoming a closer, or whatever they call it nowadays. I learned sales from top to bottom, from prospecting, cold, warm, all of it, cold calls, whatever we had to do, knocking on doors, B2B knocking on doors, B2C knocking on doors, all of it. To qualifying, to putting them through, a presentation or a demonstration, looking at proposals, figuring out the best fit, negotiations, closing the deal. All of that was the job of the salesperson, right? But, nowadays it's very compartmentalized, which personally I'm not a fan of. I think that's setting people up for failure. But that's besides the point. I'd love to get your comments on that too. But I just wanted to say, the closable market is not the entire planet like you're referring to here. So if you can really figure that out, I think that was great advice. And also, what you're saying about everybody becoming almost disingenuous and a parody of each other, because whether it's AI, like you said, copy paste and everything's the same, and we hear all the catchy phrases online, everybody just sounds the same, or it's just consuming the content of higher level creators that maybe you look up to. If you're new in business, I feel like this can happen a lot. I see it with a lot of young guys. And you hear the same terminology. I'm sure this happened to you as well. You hear somebody talk and you're like, I know exactly who you watch. I know who you listen to. I know where you got that from. These aren't your words. You wouldn't talk like that if you really, were talking to me genuinely. And it really comes across. And I have a belief I would love to get your take on. You're either consuming or you're producing. You can't do both. What are your thoughts on that? Initial thoughts. I'm not going to explain it more. I want your initial thoughts.
No, absolutely. I believe in that completely. And when I heard Kevin Hutto saying that, I don't know if you know Kevin Hutto is one of those dinosaur internet marketers that are behind the scenes from all the gurus. And he said that one of the strongest things you can do to become a better entrepreneur, a better marketer, is to become a noticer. He said you should start becoming a noticer and notice things how they're made, like the movies you go through. Okay, why is this so interesting? Why people love this so much? Or the billboards. You start looking at behind the scenes instead of being just passive consumer and just going through life like most people do. You start noticing these things, and this starts sparking you different ideas. And not only you become a better consumer, because you'll defend yourself against those very flashy ads that try to convince you to buy things you don't need. And for your family, I'm going to start doing the same thing with my daughter. Just become a noticer, please. But you also become a more you start becoming a more creative person, like a producer, a creator, not only a content creator, but also it helps you also to become not a market. How you call someone that's thinks of ways to, okay, what do people need, and I should offer
An
them this.
innovator,
Yeah, I'm innovator, exactly. So
inventor, creator. Yeah, I
exactly,
think it's all
exactly.
sort of the same.
So I think that part of it is to start becoming a noticer and start creating rather than just consuming. My initial stage in that sense of my entrepreneurship career, before I actually quit Google, I was already starting this process. Was I started my 90-day challenges. I started creating blog posts, one blog post per day during 90 days to break this belief in my mind that I was just a consumer. I can never write. I never wrote it before. So it's possible for you to start breaking those self beliefs if you become a noticer, and if you, in my opinion, if you start creating these 90-day challenges that are super helpful for you to create a skill. You just basically create a new skill out of nothing if you just commit to something for 90 days. I did for email marketing, I did for blog posts, I did for video. I was super uncomfortable on video. I hated public presentations. So I just, okay, 90 days, I'm just going to get this through and break this belief. And yeah, man, it's all possible.
Yeah, I agree. I'm starting to get a sense of kind of your way of thinking, and I think it's really interesting. So I want to ask you a couple of more unorthodox questions that I think would help entrepreneurs, because I think that's right up your alley, and I'm personally curious to hear your thoughts, as opposed to your approach to sales or marketing, the standard stuff. I want to know a couple of more interesting things. First of all, just before I forget, on this topic of just consuming content, consuming noise, the news, what's going on around the world, what are some safeguards that you have in place? How do you protect yourself against getting sidetracked, getting too deep into negativity, into what's going on around the world, and then that distracting you from your work? How do you protect yourself against that?
Absolutely. I completely stopped. I don't have TV. My TV is only on for when I want to watch football, because I love soccer, like you guys say.
Mhm. Right. Who's
That's
your team, by the way?
Benfica. Benfica is
Benfica, of
from
course.
Lisbon.
Yeah, I figured. Yeah.
The biggest team. So that's one way to defend myself, of course, which also puts me somehow in a disadvantage, because when I'm talking to people, many people talk, have you heard about that thing, or there's something happening in your world. But this is the way I have to protect myself, and just keep doing the work without getting overly distracted or worried about like what's coming, etc. I mean, I still get the news in my news feed, like, or people tell me something, but that's one way of defending myself.
To me, like, you just opt out. You don't look
Yeah.
at the news, you don't look at the TV, you're not consuming, and you'd rather opt for ignorance in this stage consciously, which I love, by the way. And this is a lesson that I learned multiple times, and it was such a almost like a hard hitting lesson for me. There was a few separate times I can remember very clearly. I was talking to mentors of mine, high level individuals that I was learning from at these different stages. And I remember bringing up another entrepreneur, or bringing up a book, or bringing up something somebody said online. And they reacted in a way that they were completely genuinely clueless. And then I remember asking a follow-up question like, oh, you don't know who that is? That's a high-level entrepreneur. They're like, no, I have no idea. And moments like that, I've had multiple moments like that. People that are high performers, that are very successful, that I'm currently looking up to and learning from, aren't sitting there consuming and watching what other people do. They're busy enough building their own businesses, building their own lives, and they're not worried about watching or learning about other people. So nowadays, almost like you just asked me about this marketer and I said I have no idea who it is. Nowadays, I take pride in that. I genuinely do. I honestly do. It's conscious ignorance in the way that whenever I say no, I don't know what that is, or no, I don't know what's happening, or people ask me questions like, did you see that? And I said no. I take it like, you're sitting there consuming, and I'm sitting here producing, and that's just the difference.
You're very selective to who you let in your world, right?
Exactly, very selective. It sounds like you're the exact same way. Yep. So I was curious about that. The next unorthodox question that I have for you, interested in your thoughts, is you talked about productivity and getting 90 days of videos recorded back to back to back. So that sounds to me like a sprint of work, getting really like focused work done. I had another good friend of mine on the podcast, and actually I had him come speak to my inner circle private group of clients. His name is Craig, high level guy in the online space, and helps beginner entrepreneurs build their courses and scale it to 6 and 7 figures. Cool. And he's done multiple 7 figures himself, and he's done very similar almost activities like this. Just recently he did I think it was tweeting once an hour for 7 days straight. Nice. So he's done crazy exercises like that, right? And then shared his lessons. I'm curious, do you have any specific strategies that work for you in terms of getting work done, moving the needle? Maybe if the to-do list is stacking up and you're getting anxiety, like things aren't getting done, how do you just
Mm,
attack things? How do you get things done? Do you have any practices that you do?
yeah, I learned this from another guy. Probably you never heard of it. From
I
Mike
might have.
Shreve.
No, I
He
haven't.
said like you should focus on only three things a day: one marketing
Mm,
activity, one sales activity, one fulfillment activity, and that's it. And which is perfect for me because I tend to like get busy and doing so many things, and at the end of the day not feeling productive. I didn't achieve anything. But with this, it's amazing because okay, I can choose just one marketing activity, and if I do this for the day, the one thing, like the one thing book, right? It says
mhm.
I'm good. You know, I feel productive. I feel fulfilled. I can go relax with my family, you know, without thinking, what I didn't do, what I should have done. And this discipline and this doing some one thing consistently during long periods of time, you know, it starts creating the momentum that you so love. You don't get lost doing random things. It makes you focus on the actual activities that bring the most value, the 80-20, right? The Pareto principle, and that makes you focus on just three things that make the biggest difference in your business. And I like to do them right at the beginning of the day so that I get rid of the important stuff, and then okay, for the rest of the day I can do the email follow up, and then I'm free to enjoy my life. That's how I love to structure my day.
Yeah, that's a really good setup. I like that each of the three things is focused on one aspect of the business that
Yeah.
moves the needle. I've heard variations of that from many different entrepreneurs. You know, write down three things in the morning and just get those three things done, or you know, have a list of 3 to 5 things and get those done, or just one thing and focus on that, or take yourself out of your environment. That's one that definitely has worked for me, especially if I want to work on something new, a new project, or I want to just break through a barrier that's almost like a self-imposed barrier where you think this is too much work to get done and it's going to take you a long time. I like to basically take myself out of my environment. So go to a
Really?
new coffee
Yeah.
shop,
Okay, cool.
somewhere, you know, that I have no associations with, and I don't know anybody either. I take my laptop and basically commit, let's say, 3 to 5 hours to that in that new environment. I give myself a work block in a completely new environment. And usually that
Wow.
helps me get a ton of work done that I couldn't have finished in the office or at home. And it just wouldn't be the same because the associations you have with your pace of work, with the environment, with distractions, whatever else
Wow.
it may be. So that's another one that has worked for me. I don't know if you've ever done that,
Yeah,
but
that,
it's
that
been helpful.
shows. I mean, that this what you're saying now, that I'm saying, it shows that you know we shouldn't listen to opinions of any guru, like, and follow it through because everyone is so different. You know, everyone has their
Hmm.
own rhythm. You should take things with a grain of salt, adjust
Hmm.
your own world, maybe mingle with some other things you've heard, and then create your own style and do it in your own way. That's amazing because I cannot focus too much on cafes. It's like I have to be in my
Hmm.
environment, in my own room, and then
Hmm.
once you figure it out, it means like you have a big self awareness, right? That's super
Hmm.
key for you to get your own rhythm.
For sure. First of all, you're absolutely right that whatever anybody says, you listen, you take it with a grain of salt, you test it for yourself. And then the second part of that is, yeah, it's self awareness, but at the same time, it's experimentation, right? I've tried everything
Yes,
there is, I've
yes.
done every single routine there is. So I kind of know what works for me or what doesn't work for me, which brings me to a final question that I want to ask you. And then we'll start to wrap up with a couple of looking into the future questions. Um, is there any specific routines that have worked for you? Do you have a personal practice? I find a lot of entrepreneurs have morning routines, things that work for them. This fascinates me personally. So this is more of a selfish question. Any routines that you have currently?
Yes, I mean one that I've been trying to in on and off that I should be even more military. It always goes back in like New Year's Eve. Yes, I'm implementing, but then
Sure.
I just get involved in the work and all those the three things I agree for the focus. But anyway, I just like to visualize. You know, meditate in the morning because it really alleviates your like you just start the day better when you do the meditation, you do some exercises, the day just starts running, flowing more naturally. But also the visualizing your goals. That's something that I know many people talk about it as something that is woo woo, right? Like very
Sure.
esoteric. But no, it actually is true that once you start thinking a lot about something, your subconscious starts working around it, and you start noticing different things that maybe you wouldn't notice otherwise if you're not focusing on it very actively. So I'd like to think suddenly you want to buy a like a Tesla, you suddenly start seeing Teslas everywhere, right? That's the
Hmm.
subconscious helping us like discovering new opportunities, and I really believe in that science, so I like to do that in the
Well, that
mornings.
part is definitely true. That's the RAS system of the brain, right? The
Yes,
reticular activation
reticular.
system. And yeah, and I have a Tesla, and you're absolutely right. I see Teslas everywhere all the time. So it happens with everything. You drive a Honda, you'll see Hondas everywhere. You drive a Mercedes, you'll see Mercedes everywhere. That's definitely very true. And I think, generally speaking, as humans, we're pattern-seeking animals. We always look for patterns, and we always look to connect dots, even sometimes when connections aren't there. But we like to connect these narratives and
Yes.
dots and patterns and things of that nature. I think it's very interesting. But it sounds like visualization is a big one for you. Because even earlier, I don't know if you realized, maybe unconsciously, you said when you were going to Google, you visualized yourself going
Yes,
there,
exactly.
how it's going to be.
Without
So
knowing, yeah, yeah,
that stood
that's
out to
true.
me even when you said it earlier on. So it sounds like that's a big pillar one for you. I love that. I just wanted to pick
Cool.
your brain and see what works for you. Now, question into the future. You brought up AI earlier. As you're looking into the next year, 2024, obviously right around the corner. It's pretty much almost 2024 now. As you're looking at the next 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, where do you think is going in terms of AI? Where do you see things going in terms of technology? What do you think are some things that we need to be prepared for? How can we get ourselves ready? I mean, you have experience at Google as well, big company, right? In terms of the tech space, huge dominant force. So, what are some things that you're thinking that are important to be aware of as of now with the emergence of AI?
I have a very specific take on that kind of question because we tend to be overly distracted with those new things, flashy things that show up. And I think, for example, with AI, I think now it's even more important for you to be more of yourself, instead of going after all those fashionable things and trying to copy paste and create things from scratch. Now there's so many courses about how to create a whole book just you with AI or a whole course, and I think it's going to become even more important for you to be yourself. Of course, you can use AI. It's going to be an amazing leverage for us to brainstorm ideas, to create structures of things that we want to create. But I don't believe it will be just to create anything just using that and nothing else, right? Because then people start sounding a bit almost all the same and reflecting the majority of opinions. And it's so important for us to differentiate ourselves, like you asked before, that we share our own personal stories, our own unique point of view, our own unique take on things, because that's our uniqueness that will attract people to our world, and not just saying cool things that AI generated for us. So that's my specific take. New things will come up, of course, new technologies, new in the social media, but I like to go always back to the basics, like of the timeless business marketing strategies that always prove to work, and you can always use them in different contexts and different tools that show up. Um, that's my take.
It's definitely just centered around focusing on the fundamentals and what works and not getting sidetracked. And it sounds like you believe, and I agree with this actually, that human creation and very specific creations to you that are genuine to you are going to be more sought out, more
Mm-hmm.
valuable, because with AI and chat GPT and everything else, it all sounds the same, it all looks the same. And if everybody's trying to just if everybody is on the same playing field, then you can separate yourself by being you, by bringing your unique take
Yeah.
to the table, which I agree with. I think
And
that's an interesting take on it.
once since now, like the information age, right? Like we are drowning with information, right? Everything, we don't say anything new anymore. Like everything is in YouTube, on whatever. So the people are overwhelmed with the amount of information that surrounds them, and I think in the future it will become even more and more important, and people will look even more for like this kind of personalized support, like us guiding people. You guide people, um, like access to you as a mentor, as whatever you want to call yourself. I think people will need
Mhm.
more and more this kind of more personal approach and support from us that are working this kind of help industry, right?
So you're saying the opportunities in accountability, in
Yeah.
coaching, in mentorship, and guidance, and the human touch.
Yeah, I think it will be more and more necessary, and people will look more for it. Yes,
I
believe that.
love that take. It's inherently optimistic, so I love that, and I'm genuinely optimistic by nature as well. So I'm right there with you. I mean, who knows? It could go the other way, and we could all get made obsolete and get wiped out. But let's hope we're both right. Let's hope the optimistic take is a take. And I think regardless, with the pace of technology and just what we've seen throughout history, there isn't there's no stopping it. We can shape the trajectory of the world and the advancement in technology, but that's what we've always done as humans. We always innovate, we always create, we always make newer and better technologies to make our lives easier and more convenient. And I think it's going to continue to go in that direction. And whether that means us eventually, whether it's in our lifetimes or not, merging with AI, merging with technologies, becoming symbiotic, that point of singularity, whatever you want to call it, if that's what it means, then that's what it means. I'm okay with all possibilities because I'm not under the illusion that we're going to stop growth. I think it's evolution. It's just the continuation of evolution. Now going more into the technological
I'm not saying
space.
like I'm against it. I'm saying just it will help us for sure. It already helps us, me a lot. Like the brainstorming ideas, like it's amazing. You can use leverage AI for all those things. I'm just saying in the case of differentiate yourself from others in that scenario, I think it will be still super important, the human touch.
Yeah, I agree with you. Final question, and I'm curious as to what your answer will be on this one. This is one that I ask everybody on the show, and it came from me being younger and asking anybody that I looked up to this question, and it gave me a lot of information, a lot of answers, and I always took those and applied it, and it was very helpful. So this question always stuck with me. And the question is, knowing everything that you know today and the person that you are today, if you could go back to your younger self and give yourself just one single piece of advice, what would that be?
How young? When I was a child?
As young as you like. As long as you like. You choose.
I think I think the idea, I've never been risk averse, so that wouldn't be an important point for me. I would have to think about it a bit better, but let me see what could be. Doesn't come to mind right now. But I think it will be like focusing just instead of me going to the corporate route. I think that would be the idea. Just becoming a more earlier on, trying to risk myself into the entrepreneurial world, because my parents have always been entrepreneurs. My dad was an engineer, my mom had her own gym, but somehow I was not immediately connected to that, and I felt the need of following others somehow at the time, like I have a university course, happen to find a job, etc. And maybe I would be in a very different stage right now if I just had risked much earlier and just follow my passions at the time, and just risk doing everything that I wanted and not try to please others or my parents or whatever, or careers. I think that would be the main thing, was to do it earlier.
I love that. I think that's advice that everybody needs to hear. Bet on yourself and take those leaps of faith earlier, and don't try to please others. Just take the path that you want to take and trust yourself that you're going to make it happen. That's great advice, Tiago. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, absolutely. We just frame it as, you're giving advice to your younger self, but it really doesn't matter what stage you're in. I think everything we've talked about today is applicable if you can take it and apply it, and then, start to see the results in your own life. I don't care how old you are. It's just a matter of what stage you're at and what advice you want to take and apply. Again, thank you so much for being here. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you,
I love your way of thinking, and that's why I wanted to change the rhythm of the conversation and ask you more unorthodox questions.
I love it, man. Super
again,
original.
With my own curiosity at play, and I think your answers were incredible for everybody. Before we wrap up, let everybody know where they can find you, how they can get in contact with you, how they can tune into your work, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm still in the internationalization process of my own asset. But you can still go to tiagofaria.pt, tiagofaria.pt, and then you can, with Google Chrome, you can translate to lurk me a bit. And if you want to ask a question or send me a comment, suggestion, etc., you can do it at tiago@tiagofaria.pt. Or if you want to chat with me, have a quick call, just book a call on the top right corner of my website.
Perfect. And we'll put all the links in the description of the show as well, so everybody can just easily access it and be able to reach you and pick your brain. Appreciate your time again. It was a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to having you back on in the future.
Thank you, sir. It was a real pleasure. See you soon.